A very important judgment coming in from the Supreme Court on Thursday on the Karnataka hijab case. The Supreme Court, a two-judge bench of the Supreme Court, has delivered a split verdict, which means the two judges on the bench, Justice Hemant Gupta and Justice Sudhanshu Dhulia, differed on the constitutional validity of this Karnataka government order. The order was issued on 5th February this year, which was the main bone of contention before the Karnataka High Court as well as the Supreme Court. And now these two judges have differed on the constitutional validity of this order, which essentially, simply put, placed a restriction on Muslim women, Muslim girls wearing hijab in pre-university colleges in Karnataka. Now, this matter, this entire issue has been playing out politically as well as in judicial corridors since the beginning of this year. The entire issue began in December last year, January this year, around that time, which is when the government stepped in with its 5th February order, which as per reports supported the ban that was in place by a few of these pre-university colleges, which is when the matter reached the Karnataka High Court. On 15th March, a three-judge bench of the Karnataka High Court upheld this ban, which is when the issue reached the Supreme Court. Now, on Thursday, when people got to know that the judgment is about to come out, there was some sense of closure that people were looking for, a lot of people. But now, since this is a split verdict, the matter will go to a larger bench. So there's a huge possibility that this issue will remain in public debate for several months to come now. Like I mentioned, the issue has been playing out politically as well as in judicial corridors. So to discuss this, I have with me today my colleagues Bhadra Sinha and Shankar and Imesh. Both of them will give you a very 360-degree perspective on the issue. Bhadra Sinha will tell us about how this has been happening in the courts and what are the sort of implications out of the judgments that have come in and are about to come in from the court on this issue. And Shankar will give you another 360-degree view on how this has impacted Karnataka politics, which is also about to see elections coming up, and also the politics on the national stage. Firstly, starting from you, Bhadra, could you give us initially for our viewers a little bit of the background on what the two judges have said now and why have they differed on this?
So, Apurva, you have already, told our viewers in brief about the judgment, but I would just like to first recall the background. As we all know that the Karnataka High Court on 15th of March delivered its verdict, following which all the petitioners before the Karnataka High Court filed their appeals immediately in the Supreme Court. The matters were mentioned before the then Chief Justice of India, Justice N.V. Ramana, but finally the entire matter, commenced, the hearing in the entire matter commenced somewhere in September, and after a 10-day long marathon hearing, the judgment was reserved on 22nd of September. The judgment comes just a couple of days before one of the judges, Justice Hemant Gupta, is set to retire on 16th of October. And as Apurva mentioned, it was a much awaited judgment. Everybody was looking forward to it because they probably wanted a closure to the entire issue, to the entire dispute that actually rocked Karnataka and the pre-university colleges over there. So in short, as Apurva has said, both the judges have delivered a split verdict. Now, what is the outcome of the split verdict? Now, the outcome is that the entire issue will be re-agitated again in the Supreme Court. This matter will now be placed before the current Chief Justice of India, Justice UU Lalit, who will now constitute a new bench which will comprise 3 judges. It has to be a larger bench. And then the arguments, the points of arguments will be argued all over again afresh. Now, as far as Justice Hemant Gupta is concerned, Apurva, he elaborated the points and the contentions on which he has dealt the entire issue. In his judgment, he framed 11 questions. Those questions deal with the spectrum of issues, legal issues that were raised during the argument. Some of them included whether this Karnataka government order violates the constitutional mandate or not. Then the other points that were raised before the bench were linked to the rights of the students under various articles, that is Article 19, Article 21 and Article 25. Yeah. Now, all these students, they had a point of view before the court, and they said that, the right to wear a hijab is protected under these 3 articles. Article 19 protects your right to freedom of speech speech and expression. Article 21 protects your right to live with dignity, and Article 25 protects your right to profess a particular religion. Now, essentially, the argument that was placed before the Supreme Court as well as the High Court was that wearing of hijab is an essential religious practice. Now, we can probably elaborate on this point a bit later. So, this was one of the point of arguments placed before the High Court. Then another argument that was raised in the Supreme Court was that the girl students, they claimed that denying them to wear the hijab is also denying them right to equality, because when they were denied or when they were not allowed to wear hijab, they could not go to school, and when they could not go to school, they could not take their exams. So their right to education was also affected. So another another argument was that it kind of, impinges upon their right to conscience, which is again a facet of Article 25, and then right to privacy. So Justice Hemant Gupta, he kind of framed 11 questions around all these issues, around these rights. Another question framed was whether the Karnataka government could have delegated its power to the College Development Committee to, mandate this kind of a restriction or prohibition on the Muslim girl students. So after looking at all these points and the legal questions raised, Justice Hemant Gupta gave a ruling that all these questions, as far as he's concerned, his answer to all these questions is in the negative for the petitioners. Right. Justice Dhulia, of course, took a different view. In his view, the High Court should not have gone into the essential religious practice doctrine, because according to him, there are only two issues that were related or that should have been dealt with in the entire case. That is Article 19 and Article 21. That is right to freedom of speech and expression and right to live with dignity. In his view, this entire issue of, wearing a hijab is about one's right to choose. Right. And according to him, it was an error on the part of the High Court to have gone into this question. Finally, what he said was that in his view, while he was actually writing the judgment, all the time there was only one thought that dominated his mind, and that was the condition of the girl child today, particularly in the semi-urban and rural areas, where he said that the girl child today continues to face various kinds of impediments, to kind of go out and seek education. Yeah. So he said, he in fact questioned that, aren't these kind of prohibitions and curbs really restricting their right to education? So, two different point of views dealt very differently, of course. But Justice Sudhanshu Dhulia, I think, really spoke out from his heart as well. He touched upon the issue of the problems which a girl child today is facing in the society.
Right, and that's very interesting. Probably once the judgment comes out, there will be detailed articles that Bhadra and I will be writing on this, and we will make sure that those articles, the link for those articles are in the description, so that you get a better perspective on what the court exactly said. Because, when there are differing opinions, the reasoning is different, the conclusions are different. So they're very interesting to read. And just taking a cue here from what Bhadra said, just to explain our viewers what essential religious practices are in brief, because that will give you a bit more perspective. Article 25 of the Constitution guarantees the freedom of religion and conscience, and under it provides a protection to certain practices within a religion. These are the essential religious practices. It's basically a test that a court uses, in simple words, to figure out whether a constitutional protection can be given to a religious practice. How does the court decide it? It basically says things like, the practice should be core beliefs upon which a religion is founded, and if that is taken away, then it would change the nature of the religion. So that's a very important question that a larger 9-judge bench of the Supreme Court is also handling. That was another sensitive issue, the Sabrimala issue that we saw, and then that's still pending in the Supreme Court. And like Bhadra mentioned, there are so many rights that the court is talking about that whatever happens in this issue will have further ramifications on several other such religious issues that often then come up as a political tool later in these discussions. This is where Shankar comes in. Shankar, आप अगर हमें थोड़ा इस बारे में बता पाए फिलहाल अभी कि अभी तक तक ये जो पूरा मामला है स्पेशली कर्नाटका में पॉलिटिकली किस तरह से पैन आउट हुआ है, किस तरह से ऑन ग्राउंड इसको यूज किया गया है बाय पॉलिटिशियंस देयर?
देखिए, जब इस पूरी कंट्रोवर्सी की आप हिस्ट्री देखें तो जब ये शुरू हुआ था उस समय यूपी का चुनाव चल रहा था। यूपी का जो मेजर इलेक्शन जो प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी के लिए जीतना 2024 में प्रधानमंत्री बनने के लिए क्रूशियल था। उस इशू को चीफ मिनिस्टर ने, योगी आदित्यनाथ ने यूज़ किया और तमाम जो बीजेपी के लीडर हैं उन सब ने कर्नाटका के हिजाब कंट्रोवर्सी को उत्तर प्रदेश में भी इस्तेमाल किया। अब चूंकि इस जजमेंट का सिंपल जो एक मतलब समझा जाए कि इशू अलाइव है, ठीक है, यानी कि अब सुप्रीम कोर्ट में फिर जब लार्जर बेंच होगा, उस पे जब आर्गुमेंट्स होंगे, तो जब कर्नाटका का विधानसभा चुनाव होगा तो तब तक ये इशू जिंदा रहेगा। हो सकता है कि लोकसभा चुनाव तक भी ये जिंदा रहे 2024 तक, अगर क्योंकि इसकी कोई डेडलाइन नहीं है कि कब हियरिंग होगी और कब, तो ये इशू अलाइव है पहला। और खास करके कर्नाटका जहां पर 12% 13% की मुसलमानों की आबादी है और जो कोस्टल कर्नाटका है जहां पर बीजेपी परफॉर्म करती रही है बेहतर, और वहां पर पीएफआई जैसे संगठन जो काफी एक्टिव हैं, काफी एग्रेसिव हैं, हालांकि सरकार ने उस पर बैन लगा दिया है, लेकिन वो सारे संगठन वहां पे एक्टिव हैं और वो इलाका बीजेपी को बचाना पड़ेगा किसी भी कीमत पर, अगर बीजेपी को अपनी सरकार को रिपीट करनी है। तो कोस्टल कर्नाटका के लिए काफ़ी इंपॉर्टेंट इशू है ये, जहां पर जो मुस्लिम और हिंदू पोलराइजेशन मैटर करता है। तो हिजाब का इशू है जो कोस्टल कर्नाटका और जहां पर मुसलमानों की आबादी है, यानी कि 20 से ऐसी 25 कंस्टिट्यूंसी है जहां पर मुस्लिम जो पॉपुलेशन है वो 30% से ज़्यादा है। तो उन सारी कंस्टिट्यूंसी में ये पोलराइजेशन मैटर करेगा। और ख़ास करके ऐसे समय में कि जब आप कर्नाटका गवर्नमेंट के परफॉर्मेंस को देखते हैं, अभी थोड़े दिन पहले आपने देखा होगा कि कैंपेन कांग्रेस ने शुरू किया, पे सीएम कैंपेन, यानी कि पेटीएम की तर्ज पे उन्होंने किया कि भाई उन्होंने बारकोड लगा दिए। तो वैसी स्थिति में जो बीजेपी का अपना वोट बैंक है, जो कैडर है, जो जनता है, वो गवर्नमेंट के परफॉर्मेंस से बहुत ज्यादा उत्साहित नहीं है, यानी कि वो उतनी उत्साहित नहीं है कि वो बूथ पे जाकर वोट करे। तो वैसी स्थिति में बीजेपी को चाहिए इमोटिव इशू, इमोशनल इशू, जिसमें कि जनता कास्ट लाइन को छोड़कर सारे करप्शन या महंगाई, इन सारे मुद्दों को भूल करके वो बीजेपी के लिए वोट करने के लिए मतदान केंद्र पे चले जाएं। तो उसमें ये इशू निश्चित रूप से बीजेपी को हेल्प करता है। लेकिन जैसा कि कर्नाटका के शिक्षा मंत्री, एजुकेशन मिनिस्टर का जो स्टेटमेंट आया है कि वो कह रहे हैं कि वो एक बेटर जजमेंट की उम्मीद कर रहे थे, यानी कि जो जस्टिस गुप्ता ने कहा है वो उनको ये लग रहा था कि एक मेजॉरिटी जजमेंट होगा और वो सरकार के पक्ष में जजमेंट होगा, क्लोजर होगा इस इशू पे। लेकिन एक तरह से विन विन सिचुएशन है दोनों के लिए, कांग्रेस के लिए भी, यानी कि जिस तरह से डिवीजन कांग्रेस की कर्नाटका की पॉलिटिक्स में कांग्रेस और बीजेपी के बीच में हिजाब इशू को लेकर, उसी तरह से सुप्रीम कोर्ट में भी डिवीजन है। एक जो जज है वो एक तरह से बीजेपी की जो आर्गूमेंट है उसको उस लाइन को आगे बढ़ा रहा है, दूसरा जो जज है वो कांग्रेस की लाइन के आर्गुमेंट को आगे बढ़ा रहा है। तो पहला जो मुद्दा रेमिफिकेशन है कि ये इशू लाइव है चुनाव के लिए, दोनों पार्टियां इसका डिविडेंड उठा सकती हैं। बीजेपी के लिए ज्यादा इसलिए क्योंकि रूलिंग पार्टी है, उसको अपने मतदाताओं को, जनता को निकालना पड़ेगा बूथ पर, और ये इशू कम से कम आगे जब आर्गुमेंट होंगे तो तब तक वो इस मुद्दे को उछाल सकते हैं, इसका फायदा उठा सकते हैं।
शंकर, आपने अभी भद्रा के पास जाने से पहले एक और बस सवाल आपसे पूछना चाहूंगी। आपने जिस तरह से बोला कि यूपी में भी इसकी काफी चर्चा हुई थी उस समय, चलिए कर्नाटका में तो चुनाव आ रहे हैं तो उधर तो ये मुद्दा आपने कहा अलाइव रहेगा ही, पर क्या आप इस पूरे मुद्दे को कर्नाटका के बाहर जाते हुए और नेशनल स्टेज पे और ज्यादा एक तरह से बड़े होते हुए भी देखते हैं आप?
देखिए, पूरी दुनिया में जब इस पे बहस हो रही है हिजाब कंट्रोवर्सी के ऊपर, और बीजेपी का आर्गुमेंट ये है कि जब ईरान जैसे कट्टरपंथी देश में वहाँ की महिलाएं इसके खिलाफ आंदोलन कर रही है, और आप देखिए कि अचानक से बीजेपी जो लिबरल कैप है उसको पहन करके, उसकी आड़ लेकर के जो मुस्लिम कम्युनिटी है इंडिया में, और आपने देखा होगा कि प्रधानमंत्री के पिछले जैसे ट्रिपल तलाक के ऊपर जो बिल था, उसके बाद आप आरएसएस सुप्रीमो मोहन भागवत के स्टेटमेंट को अगर क्लोजली वॉच करें, जो भी ये बार बार वो कह रहे हैं इस बात को कि हिंदू और मुसलमान का डीएनए दोनों का एक ही है, ठीक है, पूजा की प्रैक्टिस अलग हो सकती है, लेकिन मुसलमान भी हिंदू ही है एक्चुअली में। तो जो मुसलमानों का जिसको कहते हैं हिंदूकरण करने की एक जिसको कह सकते हैं कि लार्जर जो प्लॉट है आरएसएस का, कि मुसलमानों में जो एनिमिसिटी है हिंदुओं के प्रति उसको कैसे खत्म किया जाए और कैसे उनको एक तरह से इन्फ्लुएंस किया जाए कि वो अपनी जो विचारधारा को, अपनी जो कट्टरता है उसको त्याग करके एक तरह से बीजेपी या हिंदू आइडेंटिटी के लिए वोट करें। तो उसकी एक लार्जर स्ट्रैटेजी है जो कि कांग्रेस या दूसरी पार्टियां कहती हैं कि ये इनकी लार्जर स्ट्रैटेजी है कि भाई आप 18 या 20 करोड़ जो मुसलमान हैं इंडिया में उसको भगा तो सकते नहीं हैं, तो आपको इनको उस कल्चर में, उस फ्रेमवर्क में ढालना पड़ेगा, जो कि गुजरात में अल्टीमेटली आपने देखा कि गुजरात में जो राइट्स हुए और उसके बाद अब आप देखें कि जो मुस्लिम डोमिनेटेड इलाके हैं वहाँ भी अगर जाकर आप विजिट करेंगी तो वहाँ पे भी लोग कहेंगे कि नहीं जी बीजेपी तो अच्छा काम कर रही है, मोदी जी तो बहुत अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं, बीजेपी की सरकार अच्छा काम कर रही है। तो गुजरात में बाई एंड लार्ज मुसलमानों को समझ में आ गया कि भाई जो मेजॉरिटी कम्युनिटी है इसके साथ हम टक्कर नहीं ले सकते और अपने डिफरेंसेस भुला करके इसी व्यवस्था में, इसी राज में रहना पड़ेगा। बीजेपी को, आरएसएस को लगता है कि यही बाकी पार्ट में भी होना चाहिए। जिस तरह से गुजरात के मुसलमानों ने अडॉप्ट कर लिया बीजेपी को, वैसे ही दूसरे पार्ट के जो मुसलमान हैं, कर्नाटका हो या यूपी हो, वहाँ के मुसलमान भी अपनी वैचारिक डिफरेंसेस, अपने जो प्रैक्टिसेस हैं उसको धीरे धीरे वो करके वो सद्भाव कायम हो। और इसलिए जो सद्भाव का जो पूरा कार्यक्रम चल रहा है उसके पीछे की लार्जर स्ट्रैटेजी ये है। तो निश्चित रूप से इसके नेशनल रैमिफिकेशन है, लेकिन फिलहाल जो ये है इसका ज्यादा जो पॉलिटिकल डिविडेंड है वो कर्नाटका में बीजेपी उठाएगी।
अच्छा, इसी के साथ भद्रा, शंकर ने कहा किस तरह से इसमें जो दो जजेस के बीच में डिवाइड हुआ है वही politics may be on the ground, it translates to that. Can you tell us, you followed the hearings very, very closely. Can you tell us a bit more about whatever happened during the hearing? And okay, when we talk about the marital rape case, for example, when that was being heard in the Delhi High Court, there was already speculation with the line of argument that the judges were taken with the lawyers that it might go for a split verdict. Was that the situation here as well during the hearing? Could you gauge?
Personally, not really, Apurva, because usually what happens is when matters are argued in the court, these are all deliberations that take place. So yes, this is a point that was raised before the Supreme Court, that the High Court should not have gone strictly on the aspect of essential religious practice, because the High Court had actually given a conclusion that hijab wearing is not an essential religious practice under Islam. And the reason why they gave this, finding and ruling was because they went on the basis of certain interpretations of the Quranic verses, and that's why they came to this conclusion. Now, the petitioners in the court said that this was not the right or the correct way of deciding the case, and secondly, the High Court had actually incorrectly, followed certain interpretations that were not right. So, but during the hearing, time and again, the judges kept telling the petitioners that the question revolving around ERP or the essential religious practice was actually raised by the petitioners themselves in the High Court. In fact, I had followed the High Court hearing in Karnataka, and over there, the primary argument was essential religious practice. And it continued even in the Supreme Court, but yes, the petitioners had also resorted to certain alternative arguments, in the sense, as I said, that, it violates Article 19, it violates 21, it violates 25. So a gamut of other articles as well. But another question, I think that was time and again raised in the Supreme Court was, and I think which is a recurring question raised in different courts, is to what extent can these rights be curbed? Yeah. That is a very prominent question that came in hijab, not just in hijab, it was there even in Sabrimala as well. And whether this restriction or curb, in the sense, what is the interplay between this restriction, prohibition, and Article 25, which is your right to profess religion, and your right to, in the sense, to right to follow whatever religion you want to and practice that particular religion. So this again, erupted during the hijab hearing, and now we will have to actually see how the two judges have dealt with it differently. But as you had mentioned earlier, this question, this issue is still alive, and it is pending before a 9-judge bench. And this is exactly what was argued even in this court, that to what extent can, your right to religion be curbed, be prohibited, and whether the court can actually go into this question at all or not, or whether the court can actually decide this question or ascertain which practice is an essential religious practice or not. So, there were a host of issues that were raised. A lot of questions were asked by the judges. A lot of answers were also given by the judges. But then I guess, as you mentioned, in the marital rape case, it was very clear that the two judges are, on taking a divergent view. But as far as this case is concerned, it was never the case. Yeah.
Right. I'll come back to you, Bhadra, in just a minute. Before that, शंकर, आपसे एक और बात पूछना चाहूंगी. आपने मुझे अभी तक बताया, हमारे दर्शकों को बताया कि बीजेपी ने किस तरह से इस पूरे मुद्दे पर अपनी टिप्पणी दी है, किस तरह की बातें की है. अब ये तो एक बात है, पर इसके अलावा क्या बाकी पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज इसको किस तरह से हैंडल कर रही हैं, वो आप हमें थोड़ा बता पाएंगे?
देखिए, इस पे जो प्रेडिक्टेबल लाइंस हैं उसी लाइंस पे सबके अपनी रिएक्शन है. कपिल सिब्बल ने ये कहा है कि बीजेपी का एजेंडा ही है कि वो किस तरह से पोलराइजेशन का फायदा उठाएं. सलमान खुर्शीद ने कहा है कि हिजाब तो व्यक्तिगत स्वतंत्रता का इशू है, इसलिए उनके ऊपर छोड़ देना चाहिए कि कौन हिजाब पहनना चाहता है, कौन नहीं पहनना चाहिए, इसमें स्टेट को इंटरवीन करने का क्या मकसद है. तो यानी कि जो प्रेडिक्टेबल लाइंस है, कांग्रेस उस लाइन पे, क्योंकि कांग्रेस का अपना एक वोट बैंक है जो माइनॉरिटी कम्युनिटी उनको वोट करती रही है. और ये कई बार आरोप लगता है कि जो ये एक डिबेट काफी दिनों से चल रहा है कि भाई हिजाब अगर वैसे देखा जाए कि एजुकेशनल इंस्टीट्यूट को छोड़ के बाकी जगह पे तो पहनने पे कोई प्रतिबंध नहीं है, लेकिन वो कहीं ना कहीं रेट्रोग्रेसिव एक तरह से कस्टम है. जब पूरी दुनिया में इसके खिलाफ आंदोलन हो रहा है, तो जो महिलाएं हैं, जो मुस्लिम महिलाएं हैं, उनके नेक्स्ट लेवल पे उनके एजुकेशन, उनके एम्पावरमेंट में कहीं ना कहीं ये हर्डल है. बहुत सारे जो आर्गुमेंट्स हैं इस लाइन के हैं. तो उस लाइन पे कांग्रेस क्यों ऐसे रेट्रोग्रेसिव स्टेप को सपोर्ट करती है? उसका सीधा सीधा आंसर है क्योंकि कांग्रेस का वो वोट बैंक है. बीजेपी को ये लगता है कि जो मुसलमानों की आबादी है उसमें से जो पिछड़ी जातियां हैं, जिसको हम पसमंदा कहते हैं, तो जो मुसलमानों में जो पिछड़ी जातियां हैं उनको तमाम जो सरकारी स्कीम्स हैं, तमाम जो अपीजमेंट की पॉलिटिक्स चलती रही है, उसका फायदा नहीं मिला है. और उनको भी उज्ज्वला गैस उनके पास भी पहुंच रही है, जो गवर्नमेंट की दूसरी स्कीम है उनका फायदा वो भी उठा रही हैं. तो उनको टैप किया जाए. और वो बाय एंड लार्ज जब किसी व्यक्ति के सामने ये मुद्दा होता है कि भाई उसे अपनी जीवन चलाने, आर्थिक दिनचर्या चलाने के लिए उसकी घर गृहस्थी कैसे चले, तो उसके लिए ज़्यादा जो इम्पोर्टेंट इशू है वो लाइवलीहुड का है. तो इसलिए बीजेपी उसको टारगेट करना चाहती है, उसको एड्रेस करना चाहती है. और इसलिए प्राइम मिनिस्टर ने भी थोड़े दिन पहले जो हैदराबाद की बीजेपी एग्जीक्यूटिव हुई थी उसमें भी इस बात को कहा था कि पसमंदा जो कम्युनिटी है उसको टारगेट करने पे बीजेपी को फोकस करना चाहिए. तो बीजेपी का गेम प्लान वो है. और इसीलिए ट्रिपल तलाक हो या फिर हिजाब की जो कंट्रोवर्सी है, वो जो लिबरल चश्मा बीजेपी पहन रही है, उस टारगेट, उस कंस्टिट्यूएंसी को एड्रेस करना चाहती है. लेकिन जो कांग्रेस है वो जो मुसलमानों में जो ऊंची जातियां हैं उनको टारगेट करना चाहती है और ट्रेडिशनल उनका वोट बैंक है उसको एड्रेस करना चाहती है. तो ये दोनों के पीछे की जो पॉलिटिक्स है वो किस तरह से दोनों पार्टियां अपने अपने वोट बैंक को टारगेट करना चाहती हैं. लेकिन मोटी बात ये है कि जो सुप्रीम कोर्ट को एड्रेस करना है कि भाई ये उनकी धार्मिक स्वतंत्रता का इशू है या फिर एजुकेशन इंस्टीट्यूट जो है वहां को उसको अलग कर दिया जाए, स्टेट कितना इंटरवीन कर सकता है इस रिलीजियस इशू पे. ये सारे जो मुद्दे हैं वो कहीं ना कहीं मुझे लगता है कि आने वाले दिनों में बड़े लार्जर पर्सपेक्टिव में भी जब ये मुद्दा उठेगा तो कहीं ना कहीं पॉलिटिक्स को उसका रेमिफिकेशन हमें देखने को मिलेगा.
और जिस तरह से आपने बोला, ये सारे मुद्दे दर्शकों को बता दो कि ये पेंडिंग है सुप्रीम कोर्ट के सामने. जब शबरीमाला वाला पूरा मुद्दा सामने आया था वो भी बहुत ही पॉलिटिकली सेंसिटिव था. वो जो पूरा केस था, रिव्यू पिटिशन 7 जज बेंच के पास गई जिन्होंने क्वेश्चंस बनाए, और अब 9 जजेस की जो बेंच है वो कई ऐसे बड़े सवाल सुनेगी. दीज क्वेश्चंस आर अराउंड एसेंशियल रिलीजियस प्रैक्टिसेस की किस हद तक, और ये एसेंशियल रिलीजियस प्रैक्टिस टेस्ट का कई बार एक तरह से क्रिटिसिज्म भी होता है ये कि कोर्ट्स किस हद तक ये डिसाइड कर सकते हैं कि कौन सी रिलीजियस प्रैक्टिस उस रिलीजन के लिए एसेंशियल है. इसके अलावा कौन से पिटिशनर्स कोर्ट के सामने जा सकते हैं टू चैलेंज रिलीजियस प्रैक्टिसेस, शुड दे बी अ पार्ट ऑफ दैट रिलीजन टू गो. तो ऐसे कई सारे मुद्दे हैं जो बहुत सारे ऐसे पेंडिंग केसेस को इम्पैक्ट करेंगे. इस पे जस्ट गोइंग टू भद्रा बिफोर वी क्लोज द शो कि भद्रा, what would be the next step now, and how long do you think this issue will also go to the 9-judge bench? Do you think it will be decided after those issues are decided? If you could just let our audience.
So, Apurva, in this case itself, one of the points raised by the petitioners was that, this issue should be referred to the 9-judge bench, which is looking into the questions of law that was framed by the Constitution bench that actually referred the entire issue to this 9-judge bench after a review petition was filed in the Sabrimala case. And so the petitioners in the hijab case wanted this entire matter to be referred to this 9-judge bench as well. But Justice Gupta's, in his view, there was no need to. But I think in Justice Dhulia's view, there is a need to, because the entire text of the judgment is not yet out. So I'll not be able to tell you clearly as to what view Justice Dhulia has taken on this issue. But yes, this question was raised, and probably the reason why it was raised is because, as you said, it's a larger issue. And as was noted by the 5 judges bench in 2019, when they delivered a verdict, this reference verdict in the Sabrimala review case, it's a recurring issue. And I think going by the political scenario in the country, I think it could be an issue which could just remain in rem, in continuity. Yeah. And in 2019, the 5-judge bench had actually referred this matter to the 9-judge bench only with this objective that this issue should be decided, because it is very necessary that this entire question of law is settled as to who can decide what is an ERP, as to whether the courts can actually intervene in these kind of issues or not, what is the role of the state. So, I think in 2019 also the bench had felt the same. But unfortunately that 9-judge bench has not yet assembled. Yeah. And in my view, and going by the experience which I've had in the Supreme Court, when this matter gets referred to the 3-judge bench, and when the bench is, a fresh bench is constituted, the same arguments will be advanced again before the same bench. It is very much possible that this 3-judge bench refers this entire dispute and controversy to the 9-judge bench. So we'll have to see, the future course would only be decided by the 3-judge bench. But then, considering that these issues are still pending, I think it should be given a finality by the 9-judge bench. And as soon as it is given, it will be better, because it really clears a lot of, complex issues that are affecting not just our everyday personal lives, but even the political scenario.
Right. With this, we've reached the end of our show. Like Shankar and Bhadra, both of them said, the issue is still alive and it will remain alive for at least a few more months to come. We have a new Chief Justice also coming who will hold a very long term for a change. Otherwise, we've had Chief Justice who've held shorter terms. So there could be a possibility that a larger bench sits and finally decides these issues. Along with that, just to let our viewers know, the Supreme Court has also begun live streaming, because I remember when the matter was being heard in the Karnataka High Court, because they were live streaming it, there's 7 lakh views to those videos, 4 lakh views to those videos, clearly showing how much the people also care, people of this country also care about these issues, which is why they become so important in the political scenario as well. So like I said, the issue is still live, and we will probably come back to you once it comes up in the Supreme Court again. For now, want to thank Bhadra and Shankar for joining us and sharing such great insights politically and from the corridors of the court. Thank you for joining us. Do let us know in the comment section how you like this video, and if you have any sort of feedback or comments, do let us know about those as well. Thank you.